Yesterday, live during the show, we got an initial indication that there had been some kind of charge in the killing of Breonna Taylor. I foolishly, naively thought that it was an incredibly light charge, but that I thought it was still a charge that had something to do with her killing. And I was, of course, in hindsight, wrong. And it wasn't. And we got even less of a thing that looks like justice than I thought. So understand that activists, celebrities, and everyday Americans have been calling for charges since Breonna Taylor, an emergency medical worker, was shot multiple times by white officers after one of them was shot while bursting into her home during a narcotics investigation back in March. The officers had a no-knock warrant, but the investigation showed they announced themselves before entering, according to the AG. Now, like 11 people that lived in the building said they didn't hear anything. One person said they heard something. So maybe something was said, but it seems like it was muttered under their breath. In any event, a grand jury after 6 months returned 3 charges of wanton endangerment Wednesday against fired officer Brett Hankinson over shooting into a home next to Taylor's with people inside. I foolishly thought it was endangering her life, but it wasn't even about that. Rashad, I mean, what do you make of this?
The term miscarriage of justice isn't even strong enough to apply here. What the Attorney General has done is criminal himself. So let me first take the veil away from this guy because he comes out, he blames everything on the grand jury. Here's how that process works, John, and to the entire audience, and many people are aware. He puts the charge on the paper, okay? He's the guy who researched with his staff some legal statute that nobody freaking gets prosecuted on called wanton endangerment, right? Nobody gets prosecuted on this stuff. He finds it, he presents it before a grand jury. He doesn't present the other elements where statutorily it would apply, such as, and I researched the Kentucky law, manslaughter, involuntary manslaughter, and reckless homicide all meets what we call disjunctive and conjunctive elements of the statute. He chose not to even present that to the grand jury for them to give him a true bill or an indictment. The fix was in from day one. The fix was in. And then the other crime that took place, which was the officer who obtained the warrant lied to a judge and said, well, we saw suspicious packages coming from the United States Postal Service. Well, the postmaster said, well, we're gonna investigate that. They did their investigation, a federal investigation, and they said, no suspicious packages whatsoever. Now that's being investigated, but what did this spineless AG do? Instead of using his jurisdictional authority and investigating that potential crime, he hands it over to the FBI, right? Because he doesn't want to actually prosecute cops, period. And this whole wanton endangerment thing, it's what I call a de facto misdemeanor. The reason why I call it a de facto misdemeanor, even though it's a Class D felony, is because the minimum sentence is 1 year. And that 1 year can be 1 year probation. You know what you get 1 year probation for, John? For a city code violation of your commercial property, for speeding and you can't pay the speeding ticket right away. They will give you 1 year probation to do that. So this is a de facto misdemeanor, and I promise you, whoever sentences this guy, if he even gets convicted, will give him the light end of that sentence.
You know, again, as I alluded to at the beginning of the show, I'm glad that we have you on because you not only understand this, but you can communicate it far better than I can. Everybody needs to understand everything that you said there is accurate. I would argue that strategy that was pursued by the AG is why the AG was involved in it. And look, you laid out all of the ways that it was sort of purposefully designed to fail or to succeed in getting this particular charge. Trump was asked about this yesterday, and he called the AG brilliant. To give you an idea of what we should think of this, Trump loved it. So a little bit more detail. The counts pertain to Hankinson, one of the 3 officers, allegedly firing blindly through a door and window with bullets entering an adjacent apartment where a pregnant woman, a man, and a child were home, according to the state attorney general. As I said on the main show yesterday, Hankinson's mistake in this case was firing near someone and not killing them, because that gets you a worse charge as a cop than actually killing someone, apparently. He should have killed everyone in the apartment, then he'd walk free. The two other cops, Mattingly and Cosgrove, will face no charges whatsoever. No charges. They were justified in their use of force because Taylor's boyfriend fired at officers first. And as friend of the show, Jordan Ewell pointed out, Breonna Taylor's neighbor's walls got more justice than Breonna Taylor herself.
Isn't that something?
Yeah.
And let me say this about, everybody saying, well, the officers were fired upon, so they have the right to fire back. That's a legal defense theory. That is a theory of the defense, meaning if you meet the qualification for violating the statute, we get that you say you had an excuse for violating the statute, but let's argue that in the court of law. So we're not citing doctrine here. We're not citing statute. We're talking about a theory of defense as if the prosecution is supposed to somehow be your defense attorney at the same time. This is not how it works for regular citizens. John, do you know how many regular citizens have committed a crime and they believe there's a justification for that crime and the prosecution doesn't care? Here's the other thing. When you present to the grand jury as a prosecutor, you don't have to present an adversarial case. It's not an adversarial procedure. It's just what you want them to know about. I spoke earlier today on my show with the former DA, the elected district attorney of DeKalb County, one of the great prosecutorial minds of this state. He's now a legal defense attorney. And he laid out how basically the AG has the ability to put on stand the one person who said, oh yeah, absolutely, I heard the police, and then not put on stand the 11 who said, I heard nobody at all. You don't have to present a case of every part in a grand jury proceeding. This AG and his team decided to present a case that was favorable to one element of the statute, and that's this endangerment bull.
Yeah, 100%. And the thing is, like, it's amazing how your Second Amendment rights, which for many right wingers is the most important right. It's basically you can get rid of the rest of the Bill of Rights. Doesn't matter. You got the second. It's always been to protect you against this out of control government, protect your home, protect your property, protect your family. You're supposed to be able to do that, but it always seems super contingent on what race you are. So for any other right winger, if somebody began battering down their door to break in and possibly kill their family, they would begin spraying the windows with their AK-47. But in this case, firing a shot is a death sentence,
right?
Because they ended up being black, of course. When you defend yourself, stand your ground only applies if you are at least as pale as me. That is very clear nationally. We understand that. Yeah. When police forces are dressing in plain clothes, driving around in Kia minivans, and kidnapping protesters off the streets, you're just supposed to go along with that. God help you if you fight back against what every normal human would think was a kidnapping attempt. You'll go to jail for the rest of your life if you fight the cops while doing that. So all of this talk about the Second Amendment being used to protect life, liberty, and property, and to stop an out of control tyrannical government now is being twisted to justify whatever state violence they feel is necessary to strike out against racial minorities, against protesters they find inconvenient. That has shifted very quickly now that they have control of virtually every branch of government.
Well, the basis of it is the race element, right? Because as you just said, if Breonna Taylor's boyfriend or fiance would have been a white male, licensed gun carrier as he was, and he said, hey, somebody was breaking into my house and I shot back. Do you realize how many people from the conservative right would be defending him? How many gun owners would be defending him? Where's the NRA? This man is a licensed gun owner who exercised his right. Where's the NRA on him? Nowhere to be found because he has the wrong complexion for their narrative.
100%, 100%. Check out the Damage Report podcast each day, wherever you get your podcasts, whether Pocket Casts or Stitcher or iTunes. You can join me as I give you the news and stories you want, with a range of co-hosts and interview guests jumping in on the fun each day. Again, that's the Damage Report, wherever you get your podcasts. And if you get them at iTunes, don't forget to rate and review. Sometimes I'll read them live on the show.